if you're able to talk about going from beginning to end of a project pipeline very much in like an elevator talk, then I'm going to feel pretty comfortable.
Now you're a data science manager, and I imagine you're responsible for hiring and things like that. You did touch on one thing, obviously the repo thing, but what are some of the other characteristics in people or things that you look for in a new employee?
Unsure if I want to start like things I really want or things that should be like basic, but I think I'll probably start basic just to not scare people. So I'd say the most basic things would be like having a preferred language and competency in it. So being able to like demonstrate like, hey, if we're talking one-liners, introductory kind of things, like I work in Python, I pull my data through in this particular way and I output my outputs in these particular ways. I'm familiar with these packages or familiar with these concepts. That's sort of like an intro level of like, if you're able to talk about going from beginning to end of a project pipeline very much in like an elevator talk, then I'm going to feel pretty comfortable about like your grasp on the bare basic concepts I need as someone who's working on my team as a data scientist. So like for me, and probably for you too, like, God, you could talk about like all the different ways to take a project from beginning to end. And like, I could pick any one and like spit it out in like a few seconds and say like, yep. And that's like one way of the hundreds of ways I've ever done it. So seeing like comfortability and confidence in someone being able to do that, that's bare basic importance. If you don't have like the
So,
competency and confidence to run through like a project from beginning to end, then
so would a kind of hands on the ground example of something that would assess that be like, hey, um, for example, we have some missing data. What are some ways that you can impute it, or how would you handle that in some cases? Is that something that you would be looking at, or in each of those kind of steps in the process?
yeah, that's funny you mentioned that particular question. That was actually a question I got in my
It's one of my
most
favorite
recent
questions.
one of
So,
my most recent interviews. So like yeah, that's definitely like a very, in my opinion, that's a very simple universe of things that you could talk about and how you would handle missing data, right? And like the very most easy answer in the machine learning predictive analytics realm would be like, you would want to predict your missing values given like the full data set that you have that doesn't have missing values, and how you do that, bring the data in, cleaning the data, figuring out like the distribution, figuring out the different predictive ways you would do it. That's all well and good. Like I would like to hear that too, and that would like definitely inspire more confidence in for me in that particular candidate. So I would say like that would be the start. The second layer of it would be like the things that like really like would be the next tier, would be like less about the basic introductory level stuff and more talking about like in terms of data science, like just good data science methods and techniques. So like experience with hyperparameter tuning, experience with the difference of like GPU versus CPU processing, different larger or deep learning packages. So whether it's, you're doing things in XGBoost or Lite GBM, all the way through into like PyTorch or Keras or something. Your familiarity with, different statistical methods or methodologies, like it's good to hear someone talk about like validation and cross-validation stuff, but it's more interesting to hear someone say, I help choose my modeling and my features via SHAP values. And it's like, okay, this person's like on the very cutting edge of machine learning and data science and model validation. Those are all things that like would impress me and would move you into a tier of like, all right, this person's not just confident and competent, but this person has like thumb on the pulse, if you will, in terms of what is new and what's important out there in the realm of data science as it is. I would say that would be like that scary next tier, that there may be words in there that like the average or the novice data scientist might not know about, but those are all things to aspire to, I would say.
I think that's part of the fun of data science too, is to see what's on the horizon, what's on the frontier, what people are working on. And I think just the reference of things that are happening in the community, right? The reference to, oh, I saw that this new benchmark was out, or I saw that this TensorFlow 2.0 has these features and I wanted to experiment with it. Even if they don't have a complete command, I think that that's something that people really struggle with. They're like, oh, there's all these different tools that are asked on the job requirement, and do I have to know them all? And the answer is no. But like, if you know of them, for the most part, unless it's like Python, that should be enough, because that familiarity means that it's on your radar. If you can talk about it intelligently, they probably figured that you could pick it up relatively easy.